Hey everybody, welcome to College Football Saturday. Yes, the season is finally here, and this is something that we are going to do each weekend. We're going to pick the top six games of the day. Uh, let me amend that. The top six games that differ greatly from the projected Vegas spread based on the power ratings that I put together. If a game is more than a point and a half difference than what Vegas says, then we're going to do it. So we're going to pick the six best every week. This week there are only five, so we are going to do five. Of course, it is a limited slate in this week zero, but we do have some interesting games. So let's get right down to it. Our first game is going to be the first game of the season, Notre Dame and Navy. They're playing this one in Dublin, Ireland, and it should be very interesting to get going. Marcus Freeman in year two. Navy has a new coach in Brian Newberry. You have to wonder, how are the new blocking rules going to affect Navy with their option offense? There are changes for the way that linemen can block. So the things that the service academies have been able to do in previous seasons, you can't do anymore. Notre Dame has Sam Hartman now at quarterback, so the offense should be a little more explosive. It sounds like a pretty big point spread, 20 and a half points that the Irish are favored by. And again, they are playing this in Ireland. There are supposed to be showers, so that could play a little bit of havoc with a passing game. But Notre Dame has a great offensive line, probably going to be able to exercise its dominance over Navy. Navy has a good defender in Jacob Busick. He's a guy who is going to be all over the field, someone to watch for. And again, the 20 and a half seems like a lot, but I think we're going to cast our lot with Notre Dame to cover the spread. So we like the Irish in the first game. And our second game is the first ever FBS game for Jacksonville State. As a home team, they will be hosting the UTEP Miners of Dana Dimmel. This could be one that showcases really good running games. Jacksonville State, of course, is coached by Rich Rodriguez, and UTEP has a pretty nice running game. They also have a holdover quarterback in Gavin Hardison, while Jackson State has the dynamic Zion Webb. So this game may be flying under the radar as far as interest, but there could be a lot of points put up in this one. It is listed currently as a pick'em. One interesting sidelight to note, Jacksonville State has won 11 straight home openers, and this is a pick'em. So while we are tempted to really look at Rich Rodriguez at home, because he does have a lot of veterans back this year, we do like the fact that UTEP has faced a little tougher competition over the past few seasons. So we are going to go with the UTEP Miners in our second game as a pick'em. UTEP wins the game outright. All right, our next game is one that only sickos can love, which means you know that I'll be watching it because I'm a sicko. New Mexico State, which went to a bowl game last year for the first time in seemingly forever under Jerry Kill, takes on a UMass team that had just one victory last year. But Don Brown has brought in a bunch of transfers. He named Tyson Fomencha as the quarterback just a few days ago. So he won a spirited battle with a couple of other guys. And New Mexico State has a quarterback that doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody in Conference USA in Diego Paiva. So he's pretty. This is going to be a game where you're going to see two quarterbacks on display and maybe some points put up, although New Mexico State's defense is very good. UMass was a sieve last year, but they did bring in some transfers. They should be a little bit better. New Mexico State is going to win the game. UMass has lost 24 in a row on the road, and this doesn't look like the spot where they're going to get it done. However, it does seem like a lot of points, 7.5 for a team that maybe was fool's gold. They certainly were tougher last year, but I don't know if they've gotten a whole lot better. UMass has 4 returning offensive linemen back, so there should be some cohesion. And while we think that New Mexico State wins the game, we do think with the points, we are taking the Minutemen plus the 7.5. Okay, up next we have the SEC on display with Vanderbilt, which won 5 games last year in Clark Lee's second season. They certainly look like they are improving against visiting Hawaii, making the trip from the island into Tennessee. They won 3 games last year in Timmy Chang's first season. They were a more competitive team than before he took over. They got better on offense. They had Braden Schrager back, and they need to get better on defense, though, because they were just pushed around too easy whereas Vanderbilt has a pretty good multiple attack with AJ Swan playing quarterback. They have a pretty good offensive line. Their secondary is really good, could have a couple of all SEC candidates, and Ethan Barr at linebacker is one that you need to watch. Never really thought that Vanderbilt would be giving 17 and a half points to anybody, given the way that the Commodores have been sad sacks in most of its illustrious history. However, um, as I said, Clark Lee has them playing better. He's building a culture. They look like they are slowly improving. However, Hawaii was more competitive last year. They went 4-2 against the spread as an away dog last year under Chang. And while we think that Vanderbilt should be able to win this one pretty comfortably, 17 and a half sounds like an awful lot. So we think Vanderbilt wins the game, but the spread, we are taking Hawaii. Okay, and our final game takes us to Ruston, where Louisiana Tech will be hosting Florida International in a Conference USA spectacular. These are two teams that are trying to get something going under relatively new head coaches. Sonny Cumbie went 3-9 last year for Louisiana Tech. Mike McIntyre went 4-8. But FIU was really an unmitigated disaster before he showed up. So for them to win 4 games was something of a miracle. And La Tech kind of did a little bit of an overhaul. They knew that Cumbie changing things a lot was going to be a bit of a rough ride. I'm really high on Louisiana Tech this year. I have them finishing second in the conference to Western Kentucky. Really like Hank Bachmeier, Cyrus Allen, Smoke Harris. Their offense is really good. The defense is going to need to get better. FIU, of course, was pretty decent on defense, and that's what kind of kept them in games last year. They were a double-digit road dog 6 times last year, and they only covered 2. But one of the games that they did cover was against Louisiana Tech. They beat them outright, and they're getting 11 points here, whereas Louisiana Tech has had problems as a double-digit favorite just recently. 6 times they failed to cover their last 6 times as a double-digit favorite. I do think Louisiana Tech is the better team, will win the game. This is right about where I would have put the line. I was thinking 10 or 11 for this one, so this one was a pretty tough choice. But in the end, I'm going to have to go with Mike McIntyre's Panthers. Florida International will not get the win, but will stay within the 11 points. Hope everything goes well for you today with your picks. We're going to track these things all season to see how we're doing. So we've got 5 games today, and you can check out the picks at the end of the video if you need a refresher. Let's enjoy the games, folks.